AITA for not telling my husband what his best friend did to me sooner? I 31F married to my college sweetheart for the last 5 years. We have a daughter who's 3. The last few days have been incredibly difficult and painful for both me and my husband. My husband has a best friend from college who he's incredibly close with. This friend is always there for my husband and even was in our wedding, more on that later. I also considered him a friend in college and enjoyed spending time with him because he's funny and also charming. But then I had an experience with him that caused me a lot of pain and also made me not like or trust him at all. Basically, my husband and this friend were in a fraternity together. One night there was a party at the house, and I got very intoxicated, so I went to my husband's room, he was my BF at the time, kind of early in the night, and went to sleep. I won't go into too many details, but sometime in the evening, the friend, who was also very drunk, came into the room and did some very upsetting things to me. Luckily it didn't escalate to a full-on rope, but he touched me under my PJs and also got on top of me and started grinding. I was crying and telling him to stop, but he didn't seem to care at all that I was dating his best friend or, more importantly, that I told him no. The worst part was that during this experience, he said incredibly cruel things to me. For example, he called me an alcoholic and a street rag. The next morning I was sad and confused. At the time, I made a million excuses for him. I told myself I must have done something to give him the wrong idea. We were good friends at the time and spent a lot of time together, that was drunk and didn't know what he was doing, and even that he didn't rope me, so it wasn't even that bad. I really can't pinpoint exactly why I did this, but I didn't tell my husband, or anyone, what happened at the time, and I pretty much just moved on with my life as though it had never happened. I did protect myself by not sleeping over at the frat house anymore, this confused my husband, and also not hanging out with that friend alone anymore. My husband continued being friends with this guy for years after this, so I occasionally saw him at events. My husband even invited him to be a groomsman in our wedding. I thought about telling my husband about my experience then, and I know I should have, but for some reason I couldn't bring myself to do it. It makes no sense to me all these years later, but I think was ashamed and also in my way trying to protect my husband. Anyways, this friend is unmarried and goes on a lot of dates. A few days ago, my husband came home upset, and he told me the best friend was being accused of date rape. My husband couldn't believe his friend would do something like that, and started saying it must have been a misunderstanding or the girl wasn't being truthful. I told my husband I thought the best friend probably did it, and when he asked why, I broke down in tears and told him what happened years ago. Needless to say, my husband was devastated. He responded as well as he could under the circumstances, and kept hugging me and saying he didn't understand how anyone could hurt me. He also wanted to drive me to the police station right then to make a report, did so the next day, and kept on saying he wanted to delete the guy. All night he was holding me and asking if I was okay, and I felt relieved that this huge secret was finally off my chest. But the next day, once my husband had thought about it more, he asked why I hadn't told him sooner. He was upset that I let the friend be in our wedding and that I continued to see him over the years. My husband says that I put myself in danger and that he felt like an idiot hanging out with this person and letting him around his wife when he's a predator. I told him he was right, and that I didn't really have a good explanation other than my own shame over the situation and then the guilt of having kept it to myself for so many years. There were some tears and raised voices, and I don't think he really understands where I'm coming from. It's clear he's trying to support me in this but is also really upset I didn't tell him sooner and shaken that something else could have happened to me because of it. We keep going in circles about this, and I don't know how to resolve it. Am I the a-hole?